Hello, everyone. It is Tuesday, the 14th of January, 2025, and a lot that I'm going to go through. People are still looking into, obviously, the Cybertruck incident, what happened in New Orleans, so many other different events around the world, and even in Canada are the worst. What would you call him? Bill Blair. Oh my God, the foreign affairs. No, he's not the foreign affairs. He's the Minister of National Defense. How did I forget that? Minister of National Defense. Sorry, it's because he cycled through different cabinet positions, not an expert in any of them. And yet again, announcing that we're going to be sending $440 million to support a proxy war genocide in Ukraine. That benefits no one except for the military pharmaceutical tech complex, like I've said now for the last several years. And so again, this doesn't go on the front lines. It doesn't go where it's needed. And our Canadian military is suffering, especially under this woke DEI script that has been pushed by people like Jen Carignan, who's now the chief of defense staff for literally like about a decade now. And numbers have dropped. They're trying to even give bonuses to people within the military to retain them for retention. There's people like all over the military sharing this information with me, and again with the retention numbers terrible, even with bonuses, and then more people releasing for so many different reasons, including losing trust in the military and where we go and why because things like 9/11, the truth about that is coming out more and more. What went on in January 6th, especially now that there's less censorship on social media platforms, it's all coming out more, and more and more people are waking the fuck up to the fact that there are staged and planned events and false flags that have been happening literally for generations, and they've been getting away with it because of psyops and propaganda and tools that they've utilized as part of the mental warfare on people, and hiring intelligence assets from various different organizations, including the Special Forces and CIA, FBI, Homeland, FEMA. Like, they're literally in every single Antifa, Black Lives Matter, Proud Boys, 3%ers, you friggin' name it. They're literally everywhere, and it's left and right part of the same plan anyways, unfortunately. And then even in the U.S., California committing more, and the U.S. committing more funds to for war crimes and crimes against humanity that are happening in the Middle East as well, instead of going to people in North Carolina, people in Lahaina, people in California, that actually need it. And but there's a bigger response in California than there were in the areas that were like more conservative-based voters, Republican-based voters. And so it's very interesting, the response, like even with East Palestine, like the response to that, disgusting. And still work ongoing there, by the way. And there's going to be an immediate response in California because, again, of the area that it is in, and then what the voter trend is in that area. But again, that's going to change possibly in the next 6 days or so. If there's not any more chicanery, that's going to happen. And even with elections happening in Canada, oh my God, I wish we could just have some kind of an election now, but Justin Trudeau ruined that for us, making it where it's going to be further delayed. And then they're looking for a Liberal Party leader. And unfortunately, they don't have anyone that is suitable, that are all people that are connected with the military pharmaceutical tech complex and with the World Economic Forum. And unfortunately, they are corrupt and they do more harm than good. And so I did want to get into Matt Livelsberger / Matt Burg, and I did want to share again about the letter that was allegedly sent to a few people, and then Shawn Ryan had his guest on it. I forget what his name is. I'll look back in my notes, but saying that he also received this email, and I actually started following the guy, and I posted it. And it's like it's not you are saying that are giving or creating like the letter. We're not blaming people or saying that they're lying. What's possibly happening is it was concocted by someone else and shared possibly from his email address, hacked it, whatever. And then there's so many other. We still need to look into this, and there are other there's other intelligence analysts and former CIA and stuff like that are saying the same thing. And so we did have this guy named Sean Macbeth that Shawn Ryan, he trolled a bit and slammed him for saying that the letter was possibly not real or it was fabricated. Again, I'm on the along the lines of it was possibly fabricated. Again, we need to look more into this. We don't have all the information. And just because the FBI confirms the letter is real, why are you going to trust them with that right out of the get-go when you've had people on your show and you even admitted yourself that there's often times where they can't be trusted? Not everyone, obviously, but people that are part of these events, right? And of course, if the FBI wanted this to happen or whoever, and he was targeted, then of course they're going to confirm anything that they are the ones that possibly created. Of course they're going to confirm it. And so even with 9/11, with a passport, like there's just so much to look into. And so, yeah, for this to get as heated as it is when people just want more information, because again, like there's just a lot of things that don't line up, and this has happened before. And so this was from, and again, I like to look at left and right just so that I'm more neutral. And the same thing with the fires. Like at first, like with Christy or Kristen, whatever her name was, with Crawley, the chief of fire, the fire chief. At first, like I thought she was part of the problem because of how it was painted, but then I looked more into it. Right. I'm like, what? Why are they pushing this DEI stuff so much? And like slamming her just because she's a fucking lesbian, all of that stuff. I'm like, why are they doing that? Which is actually how I came across Blair White as well, who's a trans woman. And I love her work and her content. And I've shared stuff before too. But anyway, and so it turns out that like she was trying to get finances increased, and they kept on getting decreased. And she has years worth of letters and memorandums where she has like raised concerns about so many different things, including resources and staffing, personnel and all that stuff. And she's not the one like that's responsible for making sure that making sure, like, again, she can like confirm these things and push this. But anyway, to make sure that water was in the hydrants and the reserves. So like that's apparently not part of her job. It's interesting to me that it's not. Like, it actually kind of shocks me a little bit. But again, there's another organization. I've already shared that organization yesterday. And they're the ones that are responsible for that. And so I have warmed up to her. And I've listened to her speak in multiple other interviews after she got thrown under the bus by the friggin' mayor, who should be fired, by the way. And so she's very smart. She's very articulate. She's very passionate about her job. She loves her department and her people, and it's very clear. And so even Megyn Kelly yesterday, like I was listening to one of her, maybe it was yesterday or the day before, but on her podcast as well, like she's also warming up to her as well, right? So again, don't judge people based on who they sleep with. It's, unless it's a fucking child, obviously, but like as consenting adults. And again, I still support the LGBT community. It's like it's people that are within that group that are mentally unwell and or exploiting the group, and people within the LGBT community as well do not support a lot of the grooming stuff that they're seeing, the woke stuff, like trans people going to schools, sexualizing children, all this stuff. There's a lot of people within that community who condemn that, right? And I've shared that as well. And gays against groomers, for example, they're seen as like right wing and extremists and stuff like that. They're not. They have to be a little bit more dramatic with what they share because that's what gets views. But like again, like they're sharing again like stuff that's they're addressing stuff that's not helping the community after many years of pushing for like the same rights and freedoms as everyone else, which they deserve. Like it's just anyways, it's getting turned around now, and it's unfortunate. Anyway,
regarding
so he's correcting himself. So he had came out right from the gate saying that the letter, I don't know what he was saying with the letter, but that was not real. And then Shawn Ryan blasted him. But again, and he has every right to do that, right? Like, doesn't matter how big your platform is. If someone's saying something that you think is incorrect, despite the fact that you think that you have verified it, you should be able to do that. And so
Matthew Livesberger and his tragic demise outside of the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. I know a lot of you were waiting for this video, but I wanted to make sure I had all of my ducks in a row. I got a crucial piece of the puzzle wrong, and I called someone a liar who apparently didn't lie about an email they received.
And
now, after the tragedy in Las Vegas, a man named
there are people. I've never seen me or anyone else in my community never said that this guy, and I forget what his name is. We didn't say that he didn't receive that email, or the one or two other people that did. No one was saying that. We were saying it was possibly fabricated.
Teammate went on the Shawn Ryan podcast where he claimed that a Special Forces Master Sergeant named Matthew Livesberger reached out to him via email before his tragic demise. Shawn Ryan is one of the most popular podcasters in America, and Mr. Shumate claimed that he had been in contact with Matthew Livesberger. But the email he received didn't seem quite right, and I came to the conclusion that Sam Shoemate had made up the email. But I was wrong.
Well, that's it, Sam Shoemaker. I didn't think that at all.
There's more to the story, though. A lot more.
Yeah, that Sam Shoemaker guy, like that's who I'm following. But like, he has such good content on Instagram. I haven't checked him anywhere else yet, but like that video, also that interview was very interesting, and he seems very honest.
Federal government recently had an interview where they said the email that Sam Shoemate got from Matthew Livesberger was real.
Yeah, so we have confirmed that the document that he sent to the podcast, we know that he was the one that sent that document.
You don't know that he was
That's
the one.
correct.
You can know that it was from his, anyway, sorry.
On January 4th, I was able to find Matthew Livesberger's phone number, which is a T-Mobile line out of Colorado Springs. Matthew Livesberger lived in Colorado Springs, but I couldn't confidently tie the phone number into the email, so I didn't talk about it. So let me bring on Colby Scullion of Obscure IQ, which is a digital executive protection service. I've worked with Colby and Obscure IQ before, connected through the Chris Merzen Foundation, which is a foundation that helps solve cold case murders through open source intelligence. So here's Colby to explain how he got email confidence.
Hey, thanks, Ryan. So after listening to the Shawn Ryan show, where Shawn Ryan and Sam Shoemate discussed the Matthew Livelsberger case, I wanted to take a look into the case myself. So what I did was I began an OSINT investigation. And
I'm actually, this just reminded me, I actually have to talk to my cousin again, because this was like well over a year ago, I think. But she was freaked out. She DM'd me on Instagram, and she's like, "What do you think of this?" She got an email with that she thought that she sent, and then there was like a government like email response or whatever. And then she's like, "What the fuck?" You know what I mean? She's like, I didn't send this email. And so I said, "Did you check your sent messages?" And then she checked into her sent messages, and she didn't send that email. And then she's like, "What the fuck?" And so people are getting really good now at being able to access people's email accounts. Like, I hope people realize that this has been like for many, many years, and people can absolutely even make their own email addresses look legit, like cover over it. And anyway.
What I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how I went about conducting.
I forget all the details with my cousin, but I'm going to actually like message her after this and ask her like, and just try to like jog my memory about the whole situation. And then I'll share it tomorrow or the next day.
This investigation and take you through the steps. So the first thing that I started off with was the email itself. So not long after the show ended, Sam and Shawn on their own platforms released the email itself along with the full unredacted email address. Now, since I had that email address in hand, I then took it to the next step. So I went to one of my favorite OSINT tools called OSINT.
And another cousin of mine, I'm remembering, this was again like either last year or the year before, her Instagram account got hacked. And like, so now she had to create a whole new account, and she had that account for many years, and she had quite a few followers. And yeah, and so the hacker still has access to her account, and she doesn't have access to it, and still active from the last I heard. She kept on asking people in the family and her friends to report the account and stuff like that. So maybe it's down now. But yeah, this happens. It actually happened to my aunt too.
Industries.
Yeah.
Now, using that tool, I ran the email address that was provided, and I found some really interesting pieces of information. So the first thing that we're able to see here is that this email address was registered for a variety of different services and platforms online. The first thing that I noticed was for Facebook, there was a phone hint. And the only thing that's revealed is the last two digits of the phone number, which ends in 84. We're going to want to keep that in mind as we go forward. The next thing that we're also able to see is that this email address was also signed up for a Tesla account, which makes perfect sense as a Tesla Cybertruck was used in the Las Vegas Trump Tower incident. So now that I had the last two digits of the phone number, I needed to go see if I could find the rest of the phone number. So the first thing I did was search a number of different people search websites. And I was able to come up upon a people search website that did give me a full phone number that ended in 84. Now, one thing we have to note about people search sites, and I'm sure many people know this, is not all the information on those sites are 100% accurate. So I needed to validate that this phone number actually belonged to Livelsberger. So the next thing I had to do was go back to OSINT Industries, and I was able to run this phone number and get some additional clues. So the first thing we were able to see is, yes, it's associated with a Facebook account. And the name on that Facebook account, while mostly obscured, the first letter starts with M, and then the first letter for the last name starts with L, which of course sounds familiar. But most importantly is the email hint below. The email hint here shows the letter D followed by a number of asterisks, which is used by Facebook to obscure part of the email address for security purposes, and then followed by the letter B just before the @ symbol. Next, we can see the first letter after that, which is P and ends in .com, which matches up with the email address that was given. Additionally, we found this particular phone number was also associated with an Apple account with an email hint showing the first letter is M and also a G after the @ sign, suggesting to me that this is likely a Gmail account. The next thing that I needed to do was find the Gmail account itself. So I went back to the People Search site that I had originally found his phone number from. So I was able to identify a email address that matched the criteria that I was looking for. I then went back to OSINT Industries to run that email address, and I found some great validation points. So the first thing we're able to see is that he has a Microsoft account. Now, this Microsoft account is registered to somebody named Matthew Livelsberger, and the phone hint shows the last 2 digits ending in 84. Now, we can see the same thing also for his Apple and Facebook accounts, but most importantly here is the Samsung account. The Samsung account was able to show a phone hint showing 6 of 10 digits, each of which lines up with the phone number we were able to attribute to Livelsberger earlier. Now, there's an additional item that I want to point out here, and that is that I had originally run the OSINT Industries report for the phone number on January 4th. And you can see the results here. These are the results that we had reviewed a little bit earlier. Here we're able to see the Facebook account. Out of curiosity, on January 8th, I ran the same phone number using OSINT Industries again. And what we didn't find this time was the Facebook account, which is telling us that Meta had identified the account belonged to him and promptly took it down. The last thing that I want to note is that everything you've seen today, including the full OSINT Industries PDFs, will be made available to you from Ryan. We want to do this out of full transparency. And guys, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you letting me walk through how I came to the conclusion that the email address provided on the Shawn Ryan show was, in fact, Matthew Livelsberger's email.
No one was disputing that.
So
I know.
all that being said, I think we can tie this phone number in with this specific email address.
Oh,
and
okay.
note that all the data and the PowerPoint for
okay,
this.
so I found the so this is from September, actually, so not as long ago as I thought. And so, hey, Don, do you know about Pegasus? And it's actually stuff that I had talked about on videos and stuff like that. So weird. And it was laugh out loud. I got a weird email from myself, all capital letters, myself. And they mentioned how they got Pegasus on all my devices and they can see through my cameras and shit. Very Black Mirror. And she said, for sure it's a scam, but they were asking for Bitcoin. But like, how did they send it from my email? And then she said, I feel like you might know about this stuff, laugh out loud. And then I sent, I did say that is a bit creepy, laugh out loud. I'm like, block. But then I gave her like a screen capture of Pegasus Cyber. And then I just told her what, like, Pegasus is a sophisticated spyware developed by the Israeli cyber intelligence from NSO Group. It is designed to be covertly and remotely installed on mobile phone running iOS and Android, allowing for eavesdropping and data harvesting. Pegasus has been highly controversial, using to track politicians, government leaders, human rights activists, dissidents, and journalists. Sounding interesting here? Key features: zero-click exploits and network-based attacks, allowing clients to break into target phones without user interaction. Advanced surveillance capabilities, including eavesdropping on phone calls and messages, harvesting of location data, contacts, and calendar information, camera and microphone activation, Access to storage and apps can be used for political or criminal purposes with documented cases of abuse in 45 countries. Notable cases: journalists, lawyers, and activists hacked with Pegasus spyware in Jordan, February 2024. Use of Pegasus to spy on high-profile criminal Binwan Tag B and Panama's. Anyways, so it goes on. So I shared that with her, and I said that this is all weird stuff. And I'm like, that's cyber stuff, and Mossad and IDF are connected to the pager explosions. And I'm like, is it actually your full email address? I wanted her to check it because sometimes they just get a little bit similar, but not. And I'm saying not a similar one. Is it in your sent messages too? Yeah, she said, yeah, my full email. And then she said, oh, I didn't check my sent. And then she said, good call, check now. And then I said, that's suspicious. So I would use a VPN from now on your phone and laptop. And then I told her what I used. And then I said, cover your camera on your laptop and phone when you don't need it. And put your phone on airplane mode a lot. And anyways, I just went through more stuff. And then she said, it's not in my sent. And I said, good. And then I said, trash, ? And then she said, just the email from my inbox in the trash. Yeah, and so you have been hacked. Yeah, so it's her full email address. And it's, hello, pervert. I've sent this message from your Microsoft account. I want to inform you that about a bad situation that you... Anyways, I'm not going to go through it all because it's a little bit crazy. But yeah, this shit happens.
This is at ryanpeth.substack.com.
Palantir, Gotham. Oh my, like there's just so many companies that are like, that work with government, but not technically in the government, that are doing really fucked up stuff.
Free, although some phone numbers are redacted. So it is likely that the message sent to Sam Shoemate is authentically associated with Matthew Livesberger's phone. I was wrong.
No one was saying that it
about the
wasn't.
email being manufactured by Sam
But
Shoemate.
if you said that,
and I
you were wrong.
apologize for that.
Yes.
But there are still some weird things regarding that email that don't make sense. So let me go over them, and I'll explain why this actually might be a clue to something that's a lot bigger. The first line is about Chinese submarines off the East Coast. Now, I am not a submarine expert, and I can't say with confidence that a Chinese submarine has never been in the Atlantic, but getting to the East Coast of the United States requires passing through multiple choke points in either direction. The Bering Sea, the Panama Canal, or the Strait of Magellan if you're approaching from the west, and the Cape of Good Hope or the Suez Canal if you're approaching from the east. And that sounds hard, especially when the U.S. Navy really wants to find you. But I tend to stay away from naval topics because outside of carrier and amphibious operations, I just don't know that much. But I think it is a little piece of the puzzle because the Navy, who knows about stuff like this, might call this statement into question. And also, talking about war crimes and airstrikes in Afghanistan in 2019 doesn't make that much sense either. By 2019, the war in Afghanistan was being transitioned to a mostly...
Okay, so the email from herself it went into her junk. And so she looked into her junk and found it there.
Afghan-run show.
And it's funny that people are saying, and you should anyways, too, because some accounts that are not recognized can be seen as even spam accounts and then automatically sent to junk. Even if you, like, especially if you have like a small, like word, like there's your email address that could be suspicious because some people have like really long email addresses.
But the U.S. was still running operations. I think the biggest threat there was ISIS-K, although they were mainly in the east. So if you look at this line, war crimes that were covered up during airstrikes in Nimroz province, this kind of leads me to think, what the heck was going on in Nimroz province that required 125 buildings being struck? Now, there is a UN report of strikes on drug facilities in May of 2019 in Farah and Nimroz provinces, which did cause civilian casualties. And this aligns with the email sent by Matthew Livesberger, but maybe claiming that 125 buildings were hit in Nimroz could be a clue, since that is far beyond the UN number.
And another funny thing is that President Trump was in office back in 2019, which implies that President Trump's administration was complicit in covering up a massive war crime. That would make the people who were in power at the time and didn't recall such an event to question the email as well. So what if this were an attempt at writing something that might pass a cursory look at someone eager to expose a conspiracy and American war crimes, but contains just enough red flags to make sure that certain people question what they're reading? So why would someone do that? You know, a lot of people wondered why a Special Forces guy like Matthew Livesberger would have taken a Cybertruck on his final ride. Special Forces guys are the best of the best, and they have been trained in counterintelligence and countersurveillance.
A Cybertruck is absolutely the wrong vehicle to take if you don't want to be followed. It doesn't have a tailpipe, but it has plenty of digital exhaust. It has multiple cameras, and the driver would need to stop at multiple chargers, all of which are recorded. If Matthew Livesberger believed that Homeland and FBI were genuinely following him, why would he take a vehicle that is an honest-to-God computer on wheels? Unless he knew he wasn't being followed. And Matthew Livesberger wanted a record because he knew that there is no content without video. So why would he want a record? Well, now that I can confirm Matthew Livesberger's email, I can actually take a look at his Yelp reviews. And here is a review he did of a sensory deprivation tank called Rest Float Solutions, which he said is good for PTSD, TBI, or behavioral issues. That link is on Substack if you want to look at it. So right there, we have a guy who looked fine on the outside, but on the inside, he might have been dealing with PTSD or post-traumatic stress disorder or TBI, traumatic brain injury. So he might have crafted an email and sent it to the right people who would want to break the story, but leave breadcrumbs for others in the Special Forces community that could cast doubt. Maybe Matthew Livesberger made the ultimate sacrifice as a hero, trying to get
I don't buy that. No.
the word out about TBI, and that would explain why he chose a Cybertruck and went out of his way not to hurt anybody. You know, someone from the family.
I do want to share the PBD interview from a few days ago now. So friggin' interesting. I can listen to this a lot. I think that this is the part where he starts talking about this possibly being targeted. And I'm hoping, because this is over 2 hours long, and I try to find it. And there's a few areas in this podcast that he talks about it. But here we go. If it loads.
You know, when you think about CIA, and you see what happened with the fellow who was the ISIS, the truck drives into New Orleans on the first, and same thing happened, not the same things. An event happens in Vegas, Matt Liversberg, and it's like, wait a minute, why would he be capable of doing that? Guy sends me a message on LinkedIn. And he says, I've known this guy. This is about Matt. This is about the guy that was a Green Beret. And I think Matt even did a History Channel show with Tim Kennedy. I don't know if you saw that or not. So
I saw a clip on X.
Right. I saw a clip as well on X. That's what I saw. So he sends me a message, this guy, and he says, look, I served with this guy. Matt and I were stationed in Germany together. We were both on special forces teams. Our teams trained and worked a lot together. I spent 4 weeks with him in Bordeaux. And in language training program, we drank Bordeaux pretty much every night. His wife came and visit, and he says, he was a good man, a leader, a mentor, and a father. I've spent time with him and his wife. This makes no sense to me. He had to have been targeted. Okay. A lot of people are saying this about him. Now, Luigi Mangione. Boom, boom. Everything is good, right?
Yeah.
And then, but he's missing the last 90 days. So you know when he went and what his motive was. He had some stuff because he followed libertarians. He followed 70 people on Twitter. I was one of them he followed. But the range of people he followed are...
Well, you must be involved.
Yeah. But the range of people you studied, you would look at and say, hey, okay, those are guys you followed that teach independent, critical thinking. They're not like victimhood. Let me tell you, they're after you. It's not fair, all this other stuff, right? So, you know, you hear MK Ultra. Movie came out, MK Ultra, not a good movie, but somebody needs to do a good movie on that I think could do well. Yeah, he follows Bobby Kennedy. He follows a bunch of different people, right? Well, Brett Weinstein, we've had him on. He and I spoke the other day. Interesting people that this guy follows. John McAfee is definitely one of the interesting ones. We had him on like 8 years ago. But you see these patterns with events like this happening. John F. Kennedy, where you hear, you know, the shooter comes out and takes a shot and takes out, you know, it's like, wait, how did that happen? What do we not know about CIA and their capabilities? What do we not know? Because what we do know is the stuff that we read about. And you're a guy that's worked intelligence, you know, but not intelligence. You did some warfare, spy warfare, and you're training these types of things, the methods. I think there's even a video about you that you made, that 25 ways CIA, you know, trains their agents, whatever it may be. But what is the capability of CIA and their training that we have that we don't know about?
I wouldn't even say it's CIA. I would say the agency that I've seen do a lot more internationally is DIA.
Okay.
But when it comes to MK Ultra, this was a scare. MK Ultra was a result of people being terrified. This happened in Korea when these American prisoners would go on videotape and say, I hate the United States. It's a bad country. I renounce citizenship and all this kind of stuff. And it was terrifying. And that became, MK Ultra was the beginning of a psychological arms race, is what it was. So they started all these experiments to find a truth serum. So they used hypnosis and LSD and all kinds of other drugs. And it was just bizarre, some of this stuff. Bring up, I want you to see the description of this. Can you bring up Project Midnight Climax? You heard of this?
Mm-mm.
So Sidney Gottlieb, who's the director at the time, is getting prostitutes to drug random dudes with LSD. And the scientists are behind a one-way mirror watching them in a hotel room. This was I think it was in San Francisco.
Hires prostitutes to give LSD. And then on the other side, there's somebody watching it.
Yeah.
Okay, so continue.
And I don't, that's a lot of what we know is just right there. And they're trying to do all these experiments, and then they're using hypnosis. And then this guy named George Estabrooks comes on the scene. He's a professor at this university called Colgate University in New York. And he wrote a few books about some of this stuff. Yeah, that's him. So I got access to this guy's, Dr. Estabrooks' personal files that were never deleted or part of there was what's called a destruction order from the agency.
Mm-hmm.
Right before all these secrets were about to come. He's the reason that and if you look at where Bobby Kennedy was shot, he was shot under the armpit and kind of from behind. All the bullet holes are actually listed out there. This is from our own government's investigation. It just kind of doesn't really match up very well. But Sirhan has no memory of the event. To this day, he says he has no memory. And if you talk, have you had Bobby on?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. If you talk to him about this, he believes that Sirhan should be released.
He wrote a book about this whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did a documentary about it on my YouTube channel and talked about the hypnosis and how it could be done step by step, how somebody could have done this. I got some of the top hypnotists in the world to come on to that little documentary. It's a micro documentary. But talking about what are the steps that could be taken to get someone to a place where they can do this. So this brings us into PCP, not the drug. The PCP stands for a 3-step process that if I can modify 3 things in your life, I can get you to do anything. If I can modify perception, context, and permission, PCP. And if I just look at that, I'm going to
again. So
perception.
I
change the way that you're seeing what's going on right now.
He talks about 2.
Which means kind of a domino effect that now I can modify the context and how you see this situation.
Okay.
And then I get
context.
So
Okay.
how are you seeing this? Like, everybody who is, let's say if we're in a business meeting, nobody's going to strip their clothes off and get naked, right?
You've not been in enough business meetings, but
I haven't been in yours.
give me the last P.
Permission.
Okay.
So it's perception, context, and permission. So the moment that we get home from that business meeting and we're standing in our bathroom, the context is different. So of course I'm going to take my clothes off because I'm getting in the shower. So any behavior is tolerable under some circumstances, and the only thing I've got to manipulate in your life is the context. So if I can hypnotize you, I can get you to have another personality. I change your perception of what's going on. I modify context, and I can get you to do whatever I want. There's an attorney in Washington State who did this to his clients for women to get naked into his office. And people say, oh, you can't be made to do anything against your will under hypnosis. Well, it is within their will because it's within that context. So he would hypnotize these women in his office and say, you just got home from a long day at work. You throw your keys in the bowl. You walk into the bathroom. You've got a glass of wine, and now it's time to get into the shower. So now that we get naked because the context changed. If I can modify perception and context, I can justify anything. I can get you to do anything that I want.
So where are you going with this? You're saying the possibility of MK Ultra to get them in a state to cause them to kill someone, that nothing in the history of their lives, there's never been a pattern that this person was capable of doing something like this independently. No felony, no criminal record. All of a sudden, this person decides to take their lives.
Yeah.
They're able to get somebody to that point of doing something like that.
Yeah. But just this is a perfect reflection back to the Milgram experiment. None of all those were good, decent people. They were school teachers and doctors and all of that, and they committed murder in under an hour.
Yeah.
Just because
I've talked about the Milgram experiment. I don't have time to talk about it today, but I will again, or you can look at my Rumble videos.
Perception of what's going on changed. The context is way different, and there's permission from an authority figure to do it.
Yeah.
So when you were telling a story on MK Ultra, you brought somebody up. Who did you bring up? You brought up
just now.
Yeah,
Sidney Gottlieb, Dr. George Estabrooks.
No, you brought up somebody that you said Sirhan, and who were we just talking about that actually did this? So do you when you see somebody like a Matt Liversberger on What Happened?
Yeah.
And Shawn Ryan and them and Sam read the email that he sent on the Sunday, right? Or I don't know what the day was.
Yes, on
a previous day. Do you think that's a case of this, or no? That's a different case. He was going through challenging times and he wanted to kind of make a statement with it.
I think it's a different case.
You think what is a case of MK Ultra that could be a possibility of MK Ultra?
Bobby Kennedy.
What else?
Maybe this Tesla thing that's going on. This Tesla bombing that happened.
Oh, but that's Matt Liversberger. So you think he could be
a victim of something like that? But
could be a victim of MK Ultra.
Yeah, but I've worked on deployments with dudes like this, Spec Ops dudes, and I was in Expeditionary Combat Command for the last half of my career.
Mm-hmm.
You don't, no one, absolutely no one that would make it to that community, if they were going to want to cause a bunch of damage, is going to throw a bunch of gas and fireworks in the back of a solid steel vehicle and think that they're going to do a bunch of damage. Nobody. His training is 1,000 times above that. He could have done a lot more damage. Anybody that's been in special operations command or anything like that has tons of education in that stuff.
So dissect it. You said the ID that came out, right? These different things that came out.
Yeah.
Psychoanalyze it. I mean, what do you think happened there?
I don't know. I'm no expert.
What are possibilities? Like maybe it could be this, maybe it could be this, maybe it could be this.
Yeah. I do know that Teslas can be summoned. They can't be driven without someone with their eyes open, because they'll have you ever driven one?
Mm-hmm.
So they'll kind of ping you if you are looking away, if your eyes are closed, but they can be summoned without anyone in the car, or they can be summoned to a place. And I think if this guy was dead before the vehicle pulled up, that's the only way that it could have been done. And it's the only vehicle, maybe, a Tesla might be the only vehicle that you can summon. I'm not very well educated on which vehicles can do that, but it definitely looks like that. And if you've ever have you ever fired a 50 cal?
Mm-hmm.
Not the big boy, but like a 50 cal pistol, that's like a 3-foot fireball. That would have shown up in a video.
Yeah.
That's a giant.
And that's where too, there was some video, he was possibly still alive up until the blast, or maybe there was movement. I don't know. But even when I looked at some of the images of the alleged Desert Eagle, some of them, because it was melted and stuff like that too, looked to me like a Glock. And so I'm wondering if anyone that looks at this channel, if you can confirm that this was actually a Desert Eagle even.
Fireball. Huge.
What are you saying?
That would have shown up. So if he did it right then, That would have definitely been in a video where you could see it through the windows. That's a massive, that's a big round.
Okay, so let me go to a different one here is proxy. Okay, we've had a lot of in siblings, proxy could be siblings instigating a fight. If there's 3 siblings, one instigated fights between the other 2.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, I think he was wearing your socks today. I think he wore your cologne today. Hey, what do you think about the fact that this? Sometimes I don't think he appreciates you. Whatever, the proxies that happen at siblings level, right? And then it happens in company, sports teams. Coach just doesn't, I don't know why he doesn't put you in the game more. I think he should. And boom, friction there. You move down one more. I got another spot to move up. Proxy at a higher level of countries that create proxy wars and instigate additional, like even right now, hey, there could be a potential nuclear attack and Russia's going to be behind it. Oh my God, Russia's really going to be behind it, but it's not really Russia. It's really internally being done that's using this or using that. Yeah. How do you, if anyway, how do you size those up and how are those done?
This is, now we're talking at the level of like statecraft stuff and not really psyops. I don't really trust. If I hear multiple media outlets using the exact same messaging, instantaneously, I don't trust it. So that's my go-to.
Number one,
if I'm hearing the same exact reporting from multiple different sources, it's automatic that something is being forced into the news instead of the news is reporting. So that's what I teach my kids. Are you hearing repeating or are you hearing reporting? Those are 2 different things. And have you seen that one? Have you seen that compilation of all those news aids?
Of course, yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I think it was Sinclair or something like that.
It's being fed from the top to them. So let's go through a couple of these clips here, Rob. If you can pull up. First one I want to go through is Diddy. So here's Diddy Combs. He is on Breakfast Club.
Okay, so they're going to get into some assessments of body, like mannerisms and things like that. But I don't have time to share today. I do have to go. So on that note, I will leave it at that. And I hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.